I am Damien. I'm the head of the Department of Economics here at the university. And this discussion, this evening's program, is the joint effort of the Department of Economics, the Warner School of Business and Management, and the Faculty of Law. You know, it has always occurred to me that in relation to some elements of our society, the proverbial visitor from another planet who's flying over and just trying to observe and make sense of the goings on might have some difficulty in interpreting what we see, and nowhere more so when it comes down to the treatment of ganja. You may observe, for example, two men on the mountainside, side by side, one of them growing tobacco, drying it, rolling it, smoking it, and 2 yards along, another man doing pretty much the same thing, except with a different kind of plant. And then no sooner does the second man take his first deep inhale than the paramilitary is swooping, the helicopters come over, the guns are drawn, and the second man is dragged off the field. And it's very difficult, of course, for the uninitiated visitor to get any sense of what is going on there. But, in fact, even for ourselves, even for those of us who live here and are amongst it, it is still difficult to get a sense of what really is the difference between how we treat some activities and not others. And it takes only a moment's reflection to realize that that difference occupies the intersection not just of economics and business, but also law and culture and attitudes. We're at a time now when those very attitudes and the culture, certainly in relation to the issue of marijuana, is shifting beneath our feet. Attitudes are changing seismically, not just here in Jamaica, but around the world. We know that last year, Uruguay took the bold step of completely legalizing growing, distribution, and consumption of marijuana. And several states in the US have also made tentative moves in the same direction, not going quite as far as Uruguay. And elements in the current Jamaican administration have equally well indicated a willingness to revisit the legal status of ganja in Jamaica. We need to understand what is happening. We need to understand what is changing, where it is going, and where we ought to go. University of the West Indies has always provided intellectual leadership when it comes on to critical policy issues, especially policy issues that cut across a range of disciplines in the same way that this one does. And so this event this evening is to be seen in the context of UWI carrying on this role and trying to bring to one forum the various elements that we need to be thinking about and that we need to get a grasp on, so that we can have some clarity on where we're going and how we ought to redirect those efforts ourselves. It's early days. You know, it's telling that when we invited the minister responsible, the Minister of Justice, Mark Haughton, to join us at this forum, he declined to do so, not out of any ill will or animosity or actually unwillingness to participate in the process. But he said that this is a really very early stage in the government's thinking on this issue. And he recognized, probably correctly, that he would be called upon to offer more specificity than they have arrived at. And I make the point just to say that you are to see this forum really as trying to bring all of the important information to bear so that we can begin to think about this issue and how we deal with it. It's of course particular importance to Jamaica, probably more so than many other countries, because of the cultural importance of ganja, because of the religious importance of ganja, and because of the economic potential of ganja in this country. In order to bring some of this information to bear, we have been extremely fortunate in assembling a truly impressive panel of discussants and presenters this evening. From the Department of Economics, Dr. Haughton has done much work in this area, and he's going to be talking about the economic implications. Dr. Mark Gillis from the Faculty of Law, via Stanford, UC Berkeley, Charles University in Prague, American University in Armenia, Bosnia-Herzegovina as well. Is going to be joining, is going to be presenting for us. Clyde Williams is on the panel. He's associate tutor at the Norman Manley Law School and also an attorney at law and litigator. We'll be talking about the legal ramifications. Dr. Karamawe Kanai is the director of the Office of Social Entrepreneurship and a lecturer at the Warner School of Business and Management. And he'll be looking at the social entrepreneurial opportunities. Professor Denzel Williams is going to be presenting as well. And he has done some research on international business opportunities that are going to be presented by a change in gender status. And finally, our very special guest at the symposium is Ms. Wanda James, who joins us from Colorado. She's a managing partner in Cannabis Global Initiative, a marketing and consulting firm that specializes in decriminalization and legalization of cannabis. And she was appointed to the Governor of Colorado's Amendment 64 Task Force Work Group on the issue of decriminalization in Colorado. So, we certainly, I think, have the intellectual firepower to come away from today's symposium with a broad and deep understanding of all the issues involved. We're really thrilled that all of you could join us for this exchange, and I look forward myself to an instructive and educational meeting. I'm going to invite the moderator for this evening's symposium to take over proceedings, TBJ Data Matrix. Thank you.
Good evening, everybody. This Ganja Symposium on the legalization of the weed, I don't call it marijuana, I call it ganja, because it's Jamaica, and we try to use our own term when I was discussing. But suffice to say, very few issues raised in the public fora are more topical and easy than a debate about ganja in Jamaica. Everybody knows that, right? We have had a lot of commissions. In 1977, the Joint State Committee of Parliament looking on the decriminalization, the Barry Siobhan's Commission in 2001. Coming down to this year, Parliament beginning to take small steps in expunging the records of individuals who have been arrested and charged for possession or use of ganja. So as to say, we are moving not only toward the use of ganja as a recreational drug, but also as an economic lifeblood of Jamaica, and to explore the topic whether or not ganja can provide that economic fillip for Jamaica to move us forward, whether or not the opportunities are overblown or not. How do we take these opportunities? How do we interlink from the farmer to the enterprise, the legal ramifications of legalization? Mind you, the Parliament and the government of Jamaica are not talking about legalization now. They're just talking about decriminalization. But before we go on any further, I'm going to invite Dr. Haughton, lecturer in the Department of Economics, to speak about the economic implications of legalizing ganja in Jamaica. And as he speaks, a lot of you here are still students of university, and the university is putting towards students leaving and starting a job, creating a job for themselves instead of going and looking at jobs. So you can listen to the economic implications, the economic opportunities that are there for in ganja, and see if, as students or as non-students, if there are economic opportunities that you can take from having ganja legal or decriminalized in Jamaica. Andrew.
Good afternoon. 3 years ago, when I came to UWI, we had our first Youth Drug Innocent Plan Forum, and it was held out by the amphitheater here at the Mona School of Business. At the time, it was Knife and I, and basically what we did was to show documentaries of how different economies use marijuana in the industry that marijuana generates to get rid of their debt burden and boost productivity in their local economies. Now, since then, we have upgraded the forum somewhat, and now we have expanded it, not to look at what's been happening abroad, but to put in focus where we are as Jamaicans and where Jamaica is at this time, and what exactly can we do to move ourselves forward. My presentation, first I look at Jamaica's current economic situation, then I look at the global medical and recreational marijuana market. I look at market forecasts in the US, Europe, Canada, etc. Then look at production costs, compare what is happening abroad to what is happening here. Wholesale production costs and wholesale. Then I look at retail costs and price analysis. Then I'll examine decriminalization versus legalization. Then finally we'll briefly look at some crime empirics and marijuana perception. Good. So to begin with, for the last 40 years, we already know the situation. It's been going on and on. Jamaican economy has grown at a rate of 0.7%, which means that we haven't been growing really. Incorrect industries, poor decision making, etc., has been very costly to us, with little economic growth and little benefit. High and rising domestic debt and debt servicing in particular has restrained the government's fiscal policy such that we haven't been able to grow as rapidly as we would want. Now, if we want to look at the diagram, here I have a graph looking at debt to GDP ratio over time. It started in 1960, and the blue line represents total debt to GDP ratio. The green line represents external debt to GDP, and the red line looks at domestic debt to GDP. Now, total debt to GDP, as you know, is close to 150%. It is the sum of the green line and the red line. The red line at the end there, debt to GDP is somewhere close to over 70%, and the foreign debt to GDP is also over 70%. And this has been increasing even though recent policy is geared towards reducing the debt. These efforts have been marginal. I was speaking to some people from the IMF at the conference last week, and they know that where we are now and the level of production and productivity that is taking place, we will not achieve any growth objectives for the next 10 years. So we understand the situation that we face. If we were to look at debt servicing, foreign debt servicing, external debt, the monies that we have to pay to people abroad for monies that we have borrowed, it has been growing on a consistent basis from 1971 to present. The blue line you're seeing there, which looks like a trend line, it's not a trend line, it's the nominal exchange rate. So what I've done basically is to plot the debt servicing that we have versus the nominal exchange rate. So you realize that at initial stages, it is displaying what we call decreasing marginal increases, but at the latter stages, because the line gets steeper, it means that it is increasing faster on a marginal level, which means we expect it to increase further if there are further increases in the nominal exchange. When we check the data for a small increase in the nominal exchange rate, the external debt increase as well. Now, this is our current situation. Import and export. Export is 3 times less than import, which means that we've been consuming more than we've been producing in some instances. As a result, we constantly have to seek balance of payment support, and this is foreign currency support from the IMF and other international lending agencies. These IMF funds, we've been doing this since the 70s. We've been doing this since the 70s. Such that we already see where these policies have been leading us, and we already realize that these policies that we've been implementing over time really have not been benefiting the economy on a macro scale. Fiscal consolidation, meaning cutting spending, because we are further away from a long and equilibrium path. By cutting spending, it means that it will take us longer to get to that steady state. This means that now, where we are in a very peculiar position, because how can we avoid this debt trap, increase growth, and at the same time expand the amount of capital infrastructure that is necessary to boost development and to push the country forward? So every time we have discussions, the politicians discuss this, we discuss this on the TV, and we have not been able to find a plausible solution forward. The diagram here shows our import-export situation. The green line represents our export over time, the blue line represents our imports, and the red line, as usual, is the nominal exchange rate. It might look like a trend line, but it's not a trend line. It's just showing how the nominal exchange rate and the imports and exports have been moving over time. Traditionally, we've been focusing on sugarcane, bananas, coffee, and spices. The sugarcane has been on for the last couple of years what we call a soft budget constraint. And a soft budget constraint really is because communities survive on the particular production of sugarcane. The government has to subsidize its production because it facilitates community well-being. And that is basically what a soft budget constraint is. So sugar in and within itself, after slavery leading up to now, has been very unproductive for us, and which is why some of it has been divested, and we have not been able to increase production for export significantly to benefit from economies of scale and broad-scale production. Bananas, basically the same thing. We have been producing, but given the tropical climate, hurricane, etc., damaged banana products, and we haven't been able to benefit from bananas. Plus competition from Costa Rica, Brazil, etc., Guatemala has reduced banana output. Well, the coffee, we sell it out to the Japanese. So whatever coffee we sell, the profits go to Japan. Spices, yes, but again, we haven't been able to benefit from the production of spices simply because we haven't been able to benefit from economies of scale. Now, as a small island economy, we do not have the capacity like a Brazil or a Guatemala to expand the production of traditional products. which is why the onus is on us to choose these products that if and when produced, we can produce them at a cheaper cost to the rest of the world, but a higher quality. In this case, whenever there is demand shortages in the rest of the world, we might not have to export, they can come here for their consumption. Now, global marijuana market. More than 5.7% of the world population is estimated 39 million people use marijuana across the world. Industry itself values anywhere between 10 and 150 billion, and this is an underestimation, simply because in most areas in the world the product is illegal, such that it is very difficult for us to measure the market and the potential effect of it. According to a study commissioned by the American Cannabis Research Institute, there are 24.8 million potential medical marijuana patients, and this amount will increase gradually as the years progress. So the industry is a large industry, and it can only get bigger. A lot of countries have been making, they have been putting legislation in place to move towards legalization of the plant. Damien spoke to you earlier. Uruguay has already done so. Several states in the US, Canada is also looking to do so, and a lot of countries in the EU have decriminalized and have also made it possible for people to use marijuana for medicinal purposes. So with this background, there's a wealth of resources out there for us as Jamaica to tap into. If we look at market forecasts in the US, an estimated 730,000 patients used marijuana last year, and it was reported that over 1 million have been registered. Using population data, the results showed that approximately 1% of the US population, or 3.14 million medical marijuana patients exist in the US. So this is just medical marijuana, not recreational. Market forecast in Canada, the value of the medical marijuana industry is at the moment estimated 145 million. This is also expected to increase in the near future, rising to 380 million by 2080. And these estimates, as we said before, are very, very conservative. Market forecast in Europe, marijuana is only permitted for use in 10 European countries. Check Google for those countries. The figures available shows us that the total industry this year is valued at 6.22 billion and is expected to move to 10.27 billion by 2028. And this is just the market forecast for Europe. So we're getting a better feel of what is happening with the global marijuana market. There's lots of money to be made, and countries really are trying their best to tap into this wealth of resources to facilitate growth and development and to increase production, not just primary production, but diversification in services. Quite recently, a friend of mine imported some marijuana oil for his mother's glaucoma, and that had to be imported from Colorado. Now you tell me, we're here in Jamaica and we understand the importance of these products. Because marijuana is illegal, we cannot produce output for sale. But at the same time, we can import it from abroad, which makes no sense. So we're getting an understanding of the bad decisions that we've been making and how now to best correct these decisions so that we can benefit. The chart here shows production costs in the US for greenhouse marijuana. That's on the left-hand side. On the right-hand side, it shows 3 different production costs for marijuana production here in Jamaica. We have the cost to produce marijuana in St. Elizabeth in the swamps. We have the regular cost to produce marijuana in the hills, whether it be St. Elizabeth or St. Anne. and we have the cost to produce marijuana in the high-grade parts of Westmoreland. If we look at wholesale production cost, it's estimated at $177 per pound, which is, if we put this in Jamaican dollars, it's somewhere close to 20,000. Now, while it costs in the US 20,000 to produce, it costs us 800 Jamaican dollars to produce in swamplands, 1,500 to produce in regular mountains, and 3,400 to produce in the high-grade places. Such that we are seeing here that the price differential is clear. The price differential is clear. It costs in the US far more than it costs us to produce here in Jamaica. Now, if we look at how the production of marijuana and taxation have been taking place, in the US, most places they have 15% excise tax. Now, if we apply this 15% excise tax, you realize that the tax to us here in Jamaica, if the government follows suit from a production point of view, is going to be very, very small relative to the overall price and the markup that farmers will receive. In the US, farmers receive a markup of 25% because they produce at 177 and the excise tax is 15 and they sell for 254 per pound. In Jamaica, we produce for 800 and we sell for 3,000. So we make, that's the lowest grade weed that we produce here. In this case, we are making over 260% profit as farmers selling wholesale. We are making more than 150% for regular weed. And for high grade, you are making more than 181%. And these figures are taking a 15% sales tax into consideration. In this case, if we compare the wholesale price per pound, looking at the blue, it's US dollars straight across the board. It costs them in the US $254 on average per pound for recreational or medicinal marijuana grown in a greenhouse. It costs us here in the swamplands $26 per pound, and regular marijuana growth costs us $35. And if we're looking at high grade, which is really premium, values at which we can compare to indoor hydroponic abroad, it costs us a mere $89. So looking at the price differential here, we see that there are significant advantages to be achieved both from a producer point of view and from the government point of view if production is taxed. This diagram shows us what happens when it gets to the retail market. So there's a difference between production and retail. So the government can tax production. When it gets to the retail market, the distributors in the US add $44 for distribution per pound. In Jamaica, we add $500 for distribution per pound. It doesn't matter the grade of weed, it costs $500 per pound to distribute. Good, so the distribution cost is independent of the grade. Now, if in the US they have a retail markup of 175%, which is, if you look at it, it's 550. In Jamaica, we have a 150% markup for lowest grade weed, 208% markup for regular weed, and for high grade is 135% markup. Notwithstanding this, the retail price per ounce in the US, per ounce, not per pound, retail price per ounce, including taxes and etc., it's $59.66, while for swamp weed in Jamaica it's $4, for regular weed it's $7, and for high grade it's $13. So it gives the government a huge markup gap to split into. As we get further into the analysis, we get to realize that decriminalization facilitates organized crime. All these profits go to the production and the securing of marijuana production, which breeds into organized crime. So the government is not only increasing the cost to themselves by having marijuana illegal. The government is increasing organized crime by having marijuana illegal. So as we said before, the retail price per ounce in the US is $59.66 on average, and this was given by a study done by the HLPC. In Jamaica, based on interviews of 49 retailers, we get a swamp price of $4.46, we get a regular price of $7.14, and a high grade price of $13.39. Global street prices per gram, because not much people purchase an ounce per gram. In Africa, it costs 52 cents US. In Asia, it costs $9.45 US, Australia $18, Europe $10 US, $10, South America $1.59. In Jamaica, it costs on average a mere 25 cents US per gram. If we're supposed to add GCT, because the government is going to tax it at all stages of production, we're adding GCT here, taking 16.5% GCT, it gives us a total cost of 29 cents, which is far cheaper than the production in Africa. And higher grade. I've smoked African weed before, called mersh. Bush, real, full of seeds. We call it mersh. Asian weed, we refer to as the Thai, similar, not as good. I mean, when we look at Jamaican high grade, the only weed we can compare to the highest grade here is indoor, that is grown hydroponic, whichever the name is, G13, Sperpidias, whatever the name is. We still undercut those prices. So looking at it from an economics point of view, we have to look at comparative advantage, and by definition, comparative advantage shows us that we can produce a particular product at a lower opportunity cost than another country, then that is the product we should be producing. We here want to produce black bean, green peas, tomatoes, etc. These have not been able to generate the revenue, and data shows this as well. The research shows that it is necessary for marijuana and other drugs to be taxed because the cost of consumption may impose third parties costs on others. We call this the harmfulness tax. The public health perspective, higher taxes are often justified as a disincentive to prevent people from overindulging in smoking, so the tax is also necessary. In total, it's expected that in the US, 1 year, the marijuana helped them to save between $8 and $16 billion. So we see what is happening. Criminalization, as I said before, based on the research, we see that the effect of trying to get rid of marijuana is worse when the government tries to get rid of marijuana than if the government tries to facilitate marijuana. So crime, everything is worse if the government tries to eradicate it. And this is based on research. Legalization versus decriminalization. Miran found that decriminalization is worse than legalization for 3 reasons, meaning legalization is better. One, it eliminates arrest on the basis of trafficking, possession, etc. It reduces expenses related to prosecution and incarceration, and from a government budget point of view, it allows for taxation. My time is running out. Crime empirics in the US. Recent study at the University of Colorado found that medical marijuana dispensaries impacted neighborhoods similar to coffee shops. An older study in California found that crime actually decreased around medical marijuana. And overall in Colorado, property crime is down 11.4% since they have legalized marijuana for recreational use, and violent crime has been down by 5.6%. So marijuana is having not only economic benefits, but spillover effects on crime, etc. Also in Asia, a study done on how opium and the farming of opium contribute to Asian economies. You realize that the production and the farming of opium has been able to help to maintain peace in these communities, and we believe that these farming within a cooperative structure, and I will speak more about the overall farming, etc., but we believe that this will be the same in the Caribbean. The perception of marijuana in regards to youth, The support for medical marijuana use has increased over time, but approval for recreational use has decreased, such that when we talk about if weed is legal, yes or no, if more people are going to smoke it, the research has shown that the same amount of people smoke it, but some more people now do it for health reasons rather than recreational reasons. So when it is illegal, it's considered recreational, few people do it for health reasons. When it becomes legal, more people do it for health reasons, but the ratio remains the same. And for tourism, one that we'll talk to you more if she had that plan, but Colorado tourism boomed since legalizing marijuana. And I have friends in Europe and Asia calling me every day, when is marijuana legal in Jamaica? Because they want to come here as tourists as well. So in summary, we realize that marijuana can be taxed at every stage of production, such that you realize that the government can increase their taxation from production, government can increase taxation from retail sale, and the government can increase taxation from the federal. Thanks very much for your time, and the question and answer will come shortly.